Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Create Your Life series, where we help you maximize your potential and results in the area of personal development, entrepreneurship, and travel. And I'm your host, Kevin Y. Brown.
Create your life.
Crée ta propre vie.
Create your life.
创造你的生活。
Create your life.
Crea la tua vita.
Create your life.
Ontdek jouw leven.
You better create your life.
Create your life.
Create la vie.
Create your life.
Create your life.
Beautiful people, this is the Create Your Life series. I'm your host, Kevin Y. Brown, and this is another amazing episode of the Create Your Life series with a very talented guest. Before we get started, before I introduce this amazing, phenomenal woman, I want to tell everybody to go out and sign up for our newsletter on createyourlifeseries.com or CYLSeries.com. Very important, and when you do so, you will also receive my newest ebook, which are the 10 success secrets that I've learned while interviewing Beyonce's dad. So definitely go and sign up for the email list there. And now, without further ado, I'm actually super excited. Man, I'm happy that this person is here in the studio. She's actually been a real source of inspiration for myself, but also has helped me immensely get to where I'm going. And she's one very hardworking young lady. She's an award-winning entrepreneurial journalist with a passion for social justice and women empowerment. She currently works full-time as the digital editor for Black Enterprise magazine, where she writes, edits, and covers events around the country. Infusing her passion for journalism and social justice, she has created Let Your Voice Be Heard Radio as a platform to inform, educate, and empower others about current events, politics, and social issues from a millennial perspective. The award-winning talk show broadcasts on WACR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem, sounds familiar, and is streamed online at lyvbh.com every Sunday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. On the show, she has booked and interviewed Senator Cory Booker, Mayor Bill de Blasio, Russell Simmons, and former MSNBC host Touré, amongst others. She's also worked as a TV correspondent, assistant producer for What's Eating Harlem, which airs on PBS's local affiliate station, NYC Life. And on the show, she books and interviews prominent entrepreneurs, philanthropists, and movers and shakers in Harlem. She has worked as a special election coverage reporter covering the 2012 U.S. presidential election and current events at Russell Simmons GlobalGrind.com. In addition, she has freelanced for the New York Amsterdam News, one of the nation's longest running historically Black newspaper, and has worked at NV New Vision in Business Magazine, where she's landed on-camera interviews with Reverend Jesse Jackson, Angela Simmons, and Big Sean. And in both 2016 and 2017, she was honored with the New York Association of Black Journalists Award for Best Blog Commentary. Create Your Life family, please welcome Miss Selena Hill. Selena, please say hello to the Create Your Life family.
Oh my God. Thank you so much, Kevin. Thank you. I mean, that was such a wonderful introduction. And as honored as you feel to have me, I feel just as honored to be here. Obviously, I'm a fan of the show. We work together. We're colleagues here at the station, WHCR. So the love and respect is mutual. Like, Kevin, you were on the TV show that I do. So, like, you can big me up all you want. But we've worked together. We've collaborated. And I definitely appreciate being here on Create Your Life.
Nah, you have the best energy ever, and you're always super positive. Seeing you, like, it's always like, when you see Selena, you know that it's about to be a great conversation. The energy is just always there. It's like on 13, 15. I just want to jump right in, I guess, because otherwise I'm going to sit here and I'm going to sing your praises for like the next 10 minutes.
Please don't do that. No, please don't.
All right. So you're a native New Yorker. I feel like one of the few. Like you run into people who,
right.
You know what I mean? I feel like I'm a transplant. I see a lot of transplants out here. But I guess, like, how did growing up in New York really shape you and prepare you for who you are, as a journalist, as a New Yorker? Because you be moving around a lot. Growing up here help you. And what part of New York are you from?
So my whole family is from New York City, from Queens. I'm originally from Queens. I've spent a little time in White Plains and Westchester, but I'm originally from Queens, born and raised in New York. And to answer your question, New York is all about the hustle and bustle, right? It's the city that never sleeps. So intrinsically, that definitely influenced my personality because I'm always on the go. But I'm also a type A personality by nature. I'm also extremely extroverted. extroverted. I'm a people person. I'm social. Just being in an atmosphere that really cultivates that, it kind of just made it seem completely normal to work like 8, 10, or 12-hour days, or to work like 70-hour weeks. You know, that was my norm. And that was what I was always surrounded by. So, I mean, and New York City is just like the best place in the world,
Right.
which is why we have so many dope people like you moving here, right? To moving to like either coast. But like, yeah, I think the East Coast is the best coast. It's New York City. Come on. Like, why wouldn't you want to be here? So, it's a blessing to actually be native too.
Yeah, nah, I definitely see that. Being a journalist, you got these 70 hours a week going and things like that. How did your love from journalism even come about? Because realistically, that bio that I just read, that's heavy. That's heavy. You know, you getting these awards from journalist associations and things like that. The show has won awards as well, your show. So, you know what I mean? Where did your love for journalism even start from?
Yeah, I think that my love for journalism was birthed out of just my consciousness and becoming more socially aware. Like when my sister, she's my half sister, but I call her my sister. Like she grew up in a very different type of environment than I did. Even though I was by no means extremely privileged, I still had so much more than her. And then when she was born, I was like 14, 15, and I just realized all the lack of opportunities that she would be given simply because of the environment where she was born in the part of New York City. And then I was just like, and it's not just her. It's so many other young Black and brown kids in these underrepresented neighborhoods and communities. They are not being served and they don't have a fair chance at life. And that was really eye-opening to me. And I said, you know what? Like I literally prayed about it and I was like, God, how can I use my gifts to help this epidemic, to help this problem? And that's when I realized in high school that I wanted to write. And then when I went to college, that just further affirmed that I wanted to be a journalist and work in every medium of journalism, because I actually went to New Orleans for the Hurricane Katrina relief effort in 2006 and 2007. And just seeing first-handedly how people were devastated and completely neglected in the lower Ninth Ward, it changed my life. I was literally like, I need to be the voice for these people. I need to tell everybody about this in any way possible, you know, radio or writing. At that time, I never wanted to work on TV. I never did. That just sort of fell into my lap. But yeah, so I just always wanted to do that.
Okay. And so once you went down there and you said, you know what, I need to be the voice, what was the first aspect of journalism that you picked up on? Because right now you're multimedia, like the definition of it, right? You do radio, you do film, video, you do all of these different aspects, you write. What was the first avenue that you picked up in order to start your journalism career, especially after seeing that?
Yeah, I think it was writing, because in college I joined the newspaper. And then shortly thereafter I started Let Your Voice Be Heard on the campus at SUNY Westbury, where I went. But while I was in New Orleans, I wrote this spoken word piece. And because I was just like crying and I just couldn't articulate my feelings, and I put in a spoken word piece and I performed it like on college or like the college campus and stuff like that. So like those, and at the time I didn't realize it, but that was pretty much propelling me into the direction that I would move, which is speaking to people and communicating, you know?
Gotcha.
So
okay.
Yep, that was that. Yeah.
Nah, I love it. Okay. I didn't know you spit.
I used to rap in high school.
You used to rap?
Yes.
Okay, Selena Hill. What was your rap name?
CC.
Okay.
Yep, we had this clique. It was called we were Dimes with Rhymes. Yep. And we call ourselves Dime Set. We had the logo, we had the hand motion, we had a little slogan. Like we were like Dime Set, Dime Set, Dime
like
Set.
Dipset?
Yes, because like Dipset, right? Because we were Dipset fans. So yeah, like I started out rapping in high school, and then that sort of transformed into like spoken word, and then writing, and then journalism.
Got you. That's pretty awesome. So that being said, you started with Let Your Voice Be Heard in college. I didn't know that, you know, and I know your co-host Stan, you also met in college, right?
Yep. I met him at the radio station.
Nice.
Stanley Fritz and I started it in 2006, and automatically we just bonded. Like Stanley's my brother forever. Like starting from moment one, we just automatically clicked. And then soon he was like, I want to join your team, like season 2. So I was like, okay. We had like a cast of like 8 of us, and like we had a 2.5-hour show on Let Your Voice Be Heard, and we were talking about the issues on campus that weren't being addressed from the student body perspective. So we became so popular at one point, thank God, that this girl, she had food poisoning on campus, and she called into our show like, I'm suffering from food poisoning, and she put the cafeteria on blast. And we were like, shouldn't you be going to the hospital? But like, she called in to let your voice be heard. And like, whenever there were issues on SGA or any controversy, they were like, we're going to let your voice be heard. And I was just like, oh my God, I want to do this professionally.
Yeah. Okay. I'm loving it. So saying that, now you guys have evolved from the campus and you're here at WHCR. What is your award-winning radio show? I want to, emphasize that you guys won that award. Please tell us what the award was as well. But what do you guys cover on the show?
So we cover politics and social issues from a diverse perspective. And we won an award from the New York Press Club in 2016 for Best Radio Commentary. So we did this segment about reparations, and we had veteran radio host Larry Elder call in from the West Coast, and he's a conservative voice. So he was arguing that reparations are not needed in any form, or, we just shouldn't have reparations. And Stanley became so passionate and heated that he literally had to leave the studio. He'll debate me on this, but I thought I saw tears in his eyes. That's how angry he was. But he didn't know, like, in that midst of passion, he was just dropping knowledge and gems. And it was such a great conversation, and it was very balanced. So we submitted that for the New York Press Club, and lo and behold, we won an award for that. And yeah, the issues that we cover, we talk about everything from pop culture. Like, we talked today, we did the show, and we talked about Everything Is Love. That's Jay-Z and Beyonce's new album. We talked about the Me Too movement and the accusations against Jamie Foxx. And then we had a deep dive conversation about big business and corporate greed and how it's impacting our lives, everyday people. So that's the things we do. We talk about the social causes and social issues.
I like it. Okay. I guess I love the way that sounded. Can you give us some gems or some strategies, to become an award-winning journalist like yourself? Like, what are some of the things that you say, someone must do?
Oh my God, Kevin. It's so funny because like we talk all the time. So hearing you put that spin on it, like award-winning journalist, I'm like, hey, Kevin,
you gotta,
all right,
you gotta own
come on, you call me Selena like all the time.
No, I call you the Selena
oh
Hill.
My God.
You know what I mean?
No, you don't. All right. Yeah, but I would say if I had to give 3 pieces of advice, it would be practice, perfect, and pitch, right? So like practice, because if you want to do anything and be good at it, you have to keep doing it. And the more you do something, the easier it becomes. Like, when I first started here at WHCR, it was hard. My nerves would get in the way, but now I'm much more at ease and I'm much better at what I do. So because of practice, I have perfected it, or at least I'm in that process. And I say the last P is pitch, because if you don't sell yourself, especially in our social media era that we live in, it's basically like you don't exist. Like visibility means so much. And not only is it self-serving, but you can really impact and influence and inspire other people's lives by being transparent and vulnerable and talking about your own struggle and your own journey. And through that transparency and proper marketing and social media, it can definitely lead to opportunities.
Yeah, speaking of opportunities, I see throughout the year, every single year, you are speaking on like multiple panels and you're doing these different things, even moderating. I saw that you went from basically running the behind the scenes at the Black Enterprise conferences to moderating this year and continuing to rise, right? You became like digital editor, I believe, last year, right? So you continue to rise. What are some of the things that you do in order to sell yourself and continue to move forward and upward?
Yeah, no, I think that is so important. I think it's important to be very cognizant and strategic about how you're branding yourself online. Because if you're going to exist online, but you're not putting any thought behind it, then you're probably doing yourself a disservice by just putting up anything that you happen to be thinking, if you're drunk and, just doing things that you may regret. Whereas on the other hand, I use social media very purposefully. So I'm like, okay, I'm putting this picture up of me, at the conference or moderating or interviewing someone for a reason. Maybe I'll tell a backstory. Maybe I'll just put up like a cute and quirky caption, but I'm putting it up to show that my career and what I'm passionate about is literally my life. And I want people to see that. And I want people to know that about me. So now when people see me, they automatically associate me with my work. And that's because I'm always constantly pumping that out. Like, you've heard the term, you're only as good as like your last thing, last event or something like that, right? So you want to just stay fresh. You want to stay relevant. You want to target your social media audience know why they even come to you and give them what they want, whether that, do they look for you for a Monday motivation, for inspiration? Like, what are they looking for you for? And then continue to do that, but with a level of professionalism. And I think that people recognize that, and that could definitely lead to more opportunities.
Okay. This is a big question, and I really want to know the answer to this from you. Every Sunday, you come from very far in Queens to do your show, Let Your Voice Be Heard. You travel around the country. You got a full-time job. You hosting events everywhere, and moderating panels, speaking for different causes, but you still manage to be amazingly humble and super kind. What's your secrets to balancing it all? Because you also, and I forgot to mix in the entrepreneurship aspect you have in there as well. So what are some of your secrets to balancing it all, for real?
I would say being humble, that is life experience itself. Like, things weren't always on the up and up for me, just like they weren't for you or for anybody listening. You go through those struggle periods, but I feel like every struggle comes with a purpose, like this purpose and pain. And for me, it was definitely learning humility because like many millennials, I graduated college, top of my class, spoke at my commencement, and I won the Presidential Medal of Honor from Reverend Calvin Butt, who's the president of SUNY Westbury. And I was just like, I should just get a job like this. Like, I should just be hired. And no, it didn't work like that. It took about 2 or 3 months just for me to get an unpaid internship.
Wow, what'd you intern?
I don't want to say the name because I'm going to give you the hours and that I interned, and I don't even know if it's legal.
Okay.
So I worked 50 hours a week without pay. And maybe at that time in New York City it was legal, but like that, I'm not sure how ethical that is.
Right.
But it was for a pretty popular political website.
Okay.
And just doing that type of work and being with people who were my senior, right? I was working with journalists who graduated from Harvard and Yale and Stanford and who were like super smart and intelligent. And automatically I went from becoming like the high person on the totem pole to the low. Automatically. So that was a humbling experience. And then when my contract at Global Grind was not renewed in 2012, very humbling as well. And I spent 3 years working at a media startup that I didn't particularly like or really appreciate as much at the time. So that was another humbling experience. And at that time, I worked there for 3 years, like actively pursuing and seeking work, not receiving any phone calls back, no interviews. It was a lot. And I was like almost miserable. And I had to really pray and ask God, like, okay, what is the lesson I need to learn? And I think it was patience and humility. So I would say that those life experiences regarding my work has taught me to be humble and to realize we're just one drop in this large pool of water called life. We're all blessed with talents and creative ability to some degree. And I think that no one is more dope than the other person. Like, you may admire some things about me and I may admire some things about another person, but we're all individuals. We're all super unique and original. And I think that we should just celebrate that within ourselves.
I like that. So when you were going through these tough times, matter of fact, let me go back. How do you celebrate your uniqueness?
Okay. I like that question off the cuff. How do I celebrate it? I would say I appreciate it. I wouldn't say that like I'm actively celebrating, but I did learn to appreciate. And that also took time and experience, because I remember a lot of people around me would say things like, oh, Selena, you're so dope and you're this and that. And I did not believe in myself. Like, I put everybody else on a pedestal and I'm like, this person is super dope and this person is doing that and I'm not. And I guess other people saw the potential inside of me. And, other things like maybe my work ethic, whatever. And they kept saying, I see something in you, but I didn't see it at that time. And it took like a lot of self-reflection and evaluation and to just really build my self-esteem, my self-worth. And of course, it took prayer. And I was just like, all right, God, I need to appreciate who you created me to be. And I couldn't see it. I couldn't see myself like that at that time. And I really had to take it to God. And I think that through time and experience, I learned to not put people on a pedestal, keep things in perspective, and realize that like God is the creator of everything. Like, if anybody needs to be praised, I feel like it should be God. And I feel like I'll look at dope people and dope creations and I'll be like, yo, that's so dope because of God. I don't look at anybody else like, oh my God, you're super smart and intelligent. And like, I don't let that make me feel less than about myself. anymore.
Right.
Anymore. It
Right.
took a long time. And I remember I had a conversation with Ash, who also does a show here, the Ashcast show. Shout out to him.
Yeah, shout out
and
to Ash. He's the reason why I'm here.
Absolutely.
So,
Yo, shout out
the
to
plug.
Ash.
Yeah, he's the
plug for real.
Uh-huh.
And we were having a conversation along these lines. And I remember he told me, he was like, you know, even if Barack Obama walked into the room right now, I wouldn't be so flawed and like lose myself. He would be like, I think Barack Obama is dope and talented. I respect him, but I don't look at myself as even less than him.
Right.
And I was like, what? How does Ash think so highly of himself? And then I just realized, like, no, he just has balance and perspective, and I didn't. And
I love that.
You know what I'm saying? So I was just like, yeah, you're right. Barack Obama is just another human being.
Another human. That's how I look.
Just like you are and just like I am, right? And yes, let's appreciate the dopeness in one another and things you're good at that I'm not naturally good at. Like I could be like, yo, that's super dope, right? Yo, I love that. But that doesn't diminish or take away from my uniqueness.
Exactly. And when you do that, then you just live to see other people win. And that was a question that I had for you. Already answered it, but you know what I mean? I'm like, oh, every time I see you, you know, somebody's talking to you, whatever, you know what I mean? You just have this love and this passion for what it is that they're pursuing and that they're doing. So I was going to ask you, you know, where does that come from? But you kind of already knocked it out the park. But
well, I'll add to it.
Okay.
I'll say that naturally I see the good in people.
Yeah.
I'm an optimist. Naturally, I see the glass half full. And also just being a Christian, like my faith also really influences how I see people.
Yeah.
So I always see the good in people. Like sometimes by default, people won't even want to argue with me or tell me about things or problematic people because I'll be like, okay, but there's still this, there's still that. Like I'll always see the good. So
yeah, I love that. So for you talked about, you know, when you didn't have these great times and you were going through that hard time of 3 months and then working 50 hours at an unpaid job. Who was your biggest champion and supporter during those hard times?
Definitely my mother, because she gave me so much tough love and just told me to hang in there and just kept pushing me. Super supportive. Even to this day, very supportive. I've also been blessed with a great group of friends like Stanley Fritz. We do Let Your Voice Be Heard radio here together every Sunday, and he was always a champion. Like he was that person like, Selena, you're so dope. Like you just don't see it. Why don't you believe in yourself? Why don't you think you can do this web series or you could talk or be transparent? So he was super dope. And I've had other friends too. So thank God I've surrounded myself with like very supportive people.
I love it. So what did some of that tough love from mom look like? I'm just curious.
Oh, stop crying and get it together. Like, okay, you got fired, or okay, you didn't get this job or interview. So what? Try again. Keep it moving. Keep pushing. And also, she would be the first one to actually point out what I did wrong all the time. Yeah. And you know how you don't want to hear it, especially when you're younger. But she'll be the one to say, okay, but you did this, you were that. You know, why would you even expect to get the job or to land that interview if you weren't 100% on point? And so she's always challenged me to be my best self and put my best foot forward at all times. Seriously. Like no room for error at all.
So I guess with that, I want to ask, what was that defining moment for you that kind of put you on the path to where you are now? Like, was there one particular thing that happened that kind of said, you know what, I'm going like this and I'm going to keep pushing forward, you know, maybe into journalism, maybe multimedia journalism? I mean, just what that has made you the Selena Hill, the version that you are right now? Because I know in 3 months you're going to be, you know, have evolved. So
honestly, that is also rooted in my experience in New Orleans because we went in 2006 and then we went back in 2007. And to see the lower Ninth Ward look like the disaster happened a day before, I was devastated. You know, you hear about poverty and government neglect and disparities, but when you see it, and like I was still on American soil. So seeing it from that perspective is really that defining moment that made me say, I want to dedicate my life to being a voice for the voiceless and lifting up these social ills to make it better and leaving a legacy of change that inspires and motivates others.
Well, there you have it. And just piggybacking on that time where you had, you know, where things were hard, what was your response to no's and how do you handle, you know, naysayers or those who may criticize where you are right now in your career and where you intend to go?
Okay, so there were times when I've heard no and I thought, okay, let me ask somebody else. Let me go around you. Right. Which is not always a good thing. That's not always a good thing. But no to me meant, okay, that means I just need to go around. Okay, that's what that meant, right? But yeah, sometimes no can be a good thing, you know? I've learned that I'm at the point where I actually need to like almost accept no or accept maybe not now. You know what I'm saying? Interpret that as, okay, not now. I think that no's can be disheartening when we hear them, especially if we're like goal oriented and we're trying to get to a certain place. But I think that sometimes that no means you're not ready, because if you were, you know, why wouldn't everything just open up? Why wouldn't you have that opportunity? I mean, opportunity equates from success and preparation. So it should be yours. Unless you have like an adversary or someone who's directly trying to obstruct your success. That's different. That's a different type of no. But I think that sometimes no's mean, let me go back to the drawing board, figure out what I did wrong, what I could be doing better, and how, when and if this opportunity comes around again, I can get it. And honestly, that happened to me. I had a dream job. I always wanted to work at CNN.
Okay.
And how much time do I have?
You got 20 seconds.
Okay, I always wanted to work at CNN, and I went on the interview. I bombed it. I was late. I was unprepared. I wasn't dressed right, and I cried. And about 5 to 6 years later, I took those lessons learned. I went in there, and I knocked it out the box at CNN. And honestly, I didn't even want the job. I just wanted to prove that I could do it, and I did. So you know what I'm saying? So I had that no, but I took it as a lesson learned to how to get a yes.
Okay. And what happened with the opportunity? You knocked it out the park, and then what?
Yeah, I didn't really want it at that time, but I know I did so well on that interview. I think they offered me a freelance position or something like that, and I think I turned it down. Okay.
Well, all right. Well, beautiful people, we're gonna cut to a quick musical break, but we are here in the studio with Miss Selena Hill, the Selena Hill, and we are learning a lot about her path and this authenticness that she has to her. So we're gonna cut to a quick musical break, and we'll be back. This episode is brought to you by Podcast Laundry, a podcast editing service that gives podcasters more time to be creative by handling the dirty work of editing and all of the behind-the-scenes work that podcasters hate. If you're a podcaster, check out our services and purchase a package today. Spend more time doing what you love and let Podcast Laundry do the dirty work for you. Visit podcastlaundry.com for more information. Beautiful people, this is the Create Your Life series. I'm your host, Kevin Y. Brown, and we are back with the Selena Hill. Selena, are you here with us?
Absolutely.
Man, I am loving you in the studio right now. I told you on the break, I was like, yo, you can come and be on the show anytime you want to.
Thank you,
so
Kevin.
I'm going to take you up on that, and I want you to come back through. Before we left, you talked about bombing an interview for CNN, and then you went back years later and absolutely killed it. They offered you a position and you didn't want it. But you've had the opportunity to interview a lot of people during your journalism career. Are there any people who stood out to you or that you just love to interview, and why?
Yes, but I would have to say the interview that stands out to me the most right now would be when Russell Simmons called in to Let Your Voice Be Heard, because I bombed it. I was so bad. I literally started crying hysterically when it was done. It was awful because I tried so hard to get him on the show. Despite the fact I was working for his company at the time or around that time, it was still really hard to get him to call in. And then he did, and we had such high expectations. And then when he finally called in, he was Russell. You know, obviously this is way before Me Too. So he dropped gems, and I remember he just totally took over the conversation and dominated it and used it to really spread his message and push his products. And I let that interview just run wild. Like, as an interviewee, like, you have that control, like, you have that mic, and you need to make sure that you're getting accomplished what you want the listener to hear and know. And I didn't do that. It was just basically the let Russell Simmons' voice be heard show. And I just let it run for me, and I felt so horrible about it. And I realized, oh my God, everything I did wrong. So that interview taught me a lot as well about, like, just being confident and not being afraid to take control. And I know what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? I didn't always have that mentality. So I have to remember, like, okay, I'm a radio host, I'm a podcaster, because people trust in me as a media personality to steer and navigate a conversation in a certain way. So I have to use that skill set rather than feeling so inferior or intimidated by whoever it may be and letting them just talk. And that's what I did.
Interesting. And, you know, that has something that ties back to what you were saying earlier about, you know, seeing other people as just a person and being confident in your own dopeness. What advice would you give to someone aspiring to be in journalism right now that's probably like just getting out, or is like, you know what, they want to switch and really get in the game? What would you tell them to do?
I would tell them a few things. I would say, number one, video is a really big component right now. If you don't want to be in front of the camera, I would say learn the skill set to edit video. To this day, I regret not taking a video editing class when I was at school. And I could have, and I didn't. And I could have learned literally Final Cut Pro for free. Not for free, but I was already paying for college tuition. And I didn't take advantage. And video just bloomed and blossomed since I've graduated in 2009. So I would tell any journalist, like, visuals, if you can create GIFs, do videos, whatever you can do if you're a photographer, that is extremely, it's needed right now. I will also tell them social media is key. Like we live in a very visual digital era. So make sure whatever you're doing, get online and use it strategically to promote your work and to create your work, because you will have opportunities. Like, people book me for speaking engagements because they've seen me on social media. They've seen a little clip or something, you know? It goes a far way. And the last thing that I would really encourage anyone who's pursuing journalism is just make sure you have a passion project or something independent, because number one, journalism, like any job, comes and goes.
Right.
But if you can secure your own private hustle like Kevin Y. Brown does, then you'll always be self-sufficient, right? You'll always have an extra stream of revenue. Like, become a photographer and book gigs on the side.
Right.
Or videographer, or, you know, create a web series and monetize it on YouTube. Do that, because you need that stream of revenue, and you also need to make sure you stay relevant. And if you happen to want to work for a major media company like I have or did, I think these passion projects give you a leg up, and it's very important to make sure that you continue doing independent media as well.
Love it. Absolutely love it. How do you stay motivated? You have a lot of energy, and I'm sure that people come to you always want to, quote unquote, pick your brain and stuff like that. So how do you make sure that you stay rejuvenated? And do you have like any rituals or anything like that you do?
That's so funny. No, I prayer, like, you know, I'm a Christian, so like I'm a big and firm believer in faith and just praying and believing in who God created me to be, right? Like the Bible says we're fearfully and wonderfully made. Like I had to really recite that and believe that. So that's something. Staying humble keeps me motivated, because when I see other dope people like Ash Cash and Stan Lee and Tamika Mallory, Ava DuVernay, and like Kevin Y. Brown, like when I see you guys continually motivated, that keeps me motivated, because it just shows me how big that realm of possibility is. Like all of these opportunities, like you're in Sirius Radio, right? So that's like, oh my God, if Kevin can do it, so can I.
Right.
I have to just stay hungry. I have to stay motivated. I have to continue to push.
Okay. Love it. All right. Now I got a question for you. Can you swim?
Why? Why'd you ask me that?
Because we're about to jump into the dolphin tank.
Oh, no. I love it. I love it.
You ready?
Yes.
Okay. What are your goal setting methods, and how do you make sure that you're growing every year?
I like to set goals. Honestly, I need to get a little better at it, just to be 100% transparent. But I like to set goals at the beginning of the year, and like hardcore goals. Like, where do I want to be in 6 months, and where do I want to be in a year? And I think along that process, you have to remain cognizant and track what it is that where you are along on that path and that progress. And I think another great way to achieve goals is, like, for me, is maybe tell other people and have them hold you accountable. Like, you know, you can have sessions where you meet with different people and you're like, where are you in your goals?
Right.
Where, and you know, and you talk back and forth. And like, we used to even do that here at WHCR.
Right.
Like, you know, as colleagues here at the station, we would talk about our goals, hold each other accountable. And yeah, so I think things like that is something that's really motivating for me, and like achieving my own personal goals. Absolutely. And then I always have like the milestone goals. When I turned 30 and like 25, like I remember before I turned 25, I was like, I'm not going to work at this same job for this same salary before I turned 25. And I didn't. By the time I turned 25, I had a new job, and I think I was making like double the amount. It wasn't anything crazy, but it was still double.
Progress.
I was like, yeah, like, you know, it's still progress. It's still progress.
Okay. What was the top tech that you're using to make your business run smoothly?
Okay, so I would say, like, if emails count and Facebook, So the thing is with Let Your Voice Be Heard, Stanley's the techie. He handles, he's so innovative, and he'll come up with me, be like, we need to be on this platform. We need to be on this social. So he does a really good job at managing all of that. But I would say some key things, we use Google Docs all the time.
Right.
He'll start editing a piece and I'll come in and edit it. So that's something that's a great way that we communicate. Obviously, we communicate through group chats all day. Our team, we're constantly in communication. Now we have Wi-Fi at this station. We've taken advantage of Facebook Live. And honestly, Facebook Live for our show has been a strong proponent. People love engaging with us. On top of that, we've used other analytical tools like Hootsuite, TweetDeck, all of the tools, all the social media tools, all the data, anything that will help us track data. Those are the type of things that we use.
Okay. Well, we got a question here on Facebook Live. Jamari Peterson would like to know, what would you advise for the hungry entrepreneurs and founders to do to break through the noise, particularly ones of color and or women?
Yeah, break through the noise. I would say finding a particular beat or uniqueness will definitely help set you apart. And sometimes that's hard, right? Because everyone has a podcast, everyone has a YouTube channel. But the thing is, you really have to zero in on what makes you and yours different and amplify that.
Niche down.
Right, niche down. And I think that that's set apart. And if you can convince your audience and unique viewers that you're not going to get this anywhere else.
Right.
And you know why they're not going to get it? Because they're not going to get you. We're all unique human beings.
Exactly.
So if you can take those internal talents and that internal uniqueness and monetize that and make that into a product or a service, then I think you can definitely win.
Okay. What is your favorite quote or model that you live by?
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
Talk about it.
All right. I'm going to have to go back. And I have a few, but the one that's top of mind is the one that I just said. You're fearfully and wonderfully made, because I feel like that's the theme of our conversation, overcoming fear and low self-esteem and things that we all struggle with. We all have insecurities. Some are big, some are little. Some suffer from them more than others. But I think that me really just living by that Bible verse has helped me become the person that I am a
Love
lot.
It. Okay. The favorite or most impactful book you've read?
I'm gonna feel like a broken record because I'm gonna have to say the Bible.
Okay.
I literally read the Bible every single day, and it's such a strong source of motivation for me. It's a time where I could just reflect and just block every other thing back, and it's just me and the creator of the universe. That's a super special moment. You know what I'm saying? Where you're just it's just you and that feeling of oneness. It's powerful and it's deep. And, being such a people person, I love to be around people, but I also need that quiet time to just reflect. And the thing is, we're constantly taking in information and knowledge.
Right.
I've read self-help books and I've subscribed to different things, but I feel like by reading the Bible, it's such a source of wisdom and I can see my life reflected in it. So it's very prophetic for me. So I would say it's definitely that.
Okay. 3 jewels you would give someone looking to create their best life.
Okay. I would say, and it may sound cliche, but you really do have to be authentic. You really have to own your authenticity and own your dopeness. First you have to identify it. That's number 1. Figure out what makes you dope and why you're dope, right? And sometimes it's not what you do. It's who you are. You can be really kind-hearted. You can be really compassionate. You can be very helpful. Those type of things, people downplay it and we're all oh, how much money do you have? What car do you drive? And I'm some of the best people on this earth, those who are just super compassionate. And there's so much you can do with compassion. You can save the world just with a heart of compassion. So I would say be authentic and be your real self. Another thing I would say is, and I guess it kind of piggybacks on it, but once you find out who you are, stay true to that and don't let anyone knock it. You know what I'm saying? Don't let anyone push you off your trajectory or where it is that you're trying to go. And I guess the third thing I would say is, and I'm putting them together, be patient and humble, because I think that once you find your dopeness, if you let it build your ego, that can also knock you down.
Right. Okay. Love it. Okay. So what's next for you, Miss Selena Hill? The Selena Hill.
I can't with you. So, I'm really happy where I'm at now at Black Enterprise. You mentioned, I started off just 2 years ago as a freelancer. 6 months later, to the date, I was promoted as associate digital editor. 6 months later, I was a digital editor. And
I love it.
Yeah, no, thank
you
God.
No joke.
Right, all right. No, seriously. Thank God. It's just right timing. A lot of that happened because of timing. Someone left and then I was pushed in and I loved it and I've benefited so much. So I think that I'm still expanding where I am now. Like there's still so much I haven't done. Like I haven't wrote a cover story for Black Enterprise yet. You know what I'm saying? Like
I love yet.
Yeah, basically. Like I haven't, like you've been to our large scale events. I haven't been on that main stage yet. So there's still so much I want to accomplish while I'm here.
Yeah.
And, you know, I feel really good about being here. You know, obviously, more than likely, eventually, I probably will move on. And I do want to work for like my own media, independent media company full time eventually. So those are the long-term goals.
Okay. Love it. Okay. So how can we keep in contact with you?
So you guys can definitely follow me on social media at Miss Selena Hill, and Miss is spelled with an MS. So it's MSSELENA Hill HILL.
Love it. Okay. Well, Selena, thank you so much for being on the show. Create Your Life family. Y'all know what comes next. It is time for the turnaround. So this is where you are actually in control and I become the guest. Selena has questions.
Yes,
I don't know what those questions are. So we are going to see. Oh, whoa, hey. I don't know what these questions are. So we about to find out what's going on in here. And, you know, we're going to have this discussion. So, Selena, I am all yours.
Okay. So my first question for you is, what haven't you achieved yet?
What haven't I achieved yet? Oh man, I mean, there's a lot of things that I haven't achieved. Is there anything in specific?
That you want to achieve and you haven't yet?
Ah man, I haven't lived out of the country past college yet. Like when I was in college, I studied abroad. So I haven't lived out of the country. So that's something that I definitely want to be able to do. I haven't hit the financial goal that I want to. And so I'm very excited about that right now and just enthusiastic. What else haven't I accomplished? There are a few things. I'm not a homeowner at the moment, so that's something to aspire towards. And I think there's more of life that I feel like I want to learn. And so I think my goals are going to grow even bigger, but those are a few of the things that I haven't accomplished that I would like to.
Okay, well, you're on your way.
Yeah, of course. Oh, yeah. But, you know, I keep dope people like you around me, so it's always good.
Can't.
You know?
Right. Okay. So how do you overcome setbacks?
I overcome setbacks by, number one, I kind of take everything with a grain of salt. If it's something that I self-inflicted or that I did, then I really, you know, I'm very hard on myself. So I'll take it very serious. You know, if I make a mistake, you know what I mean? Especially if it involves anyone else. And so I evaluate and I talk to a group of people who I like to call my advisors, depending on the severity of it, you know, or what exactly had happened. But setbacks usually, you know what I mean? It's just kind of like find a way or make one is my philosophy. So, you know what I mean? If it doesn't happen right now, then it's still going to happen. And sometimes the joy is really just in like how you went back to CNN. You know what I mean? You might not get an opportunity. And then I set a lot of goals and it's kind of like, you know, I do stuff because I think that I can. And so in that, then I'm just like literally, it's just like, oh, you know what? This might take 2 months or this might take 2 weeks or this might take 2 years. Before the show started, I was like, yo, the show's going to make it on SiriusXM. Remember when I first started, I was like, yo, the show's going to be on there.
Yes, you did.
But I pitched multiple channels and had multiple conversations and emails that never got responded to and phone calls that never got responded to and people telling me, no, it's not a good fit for right now. And in reality, you know, those are setbacks, but I was laughing at them. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, you don't know who I am. And that's how I take setbacks sometimes. Is I'm like, you don't know who I am or you don't understand that I'm like literally going to text, call, and email you for 6 months straight. You don't get that yet. And so when you start to understand that, you kind of like, oh man, this dude is like really not going to stop. Like, I'm dead serious. Like, I'm super serious. Like, this is happening. And I just try to look at things from that perspective. So when there's a setback, I think of it as something just temporary.
Nice. Okay. I know you're relentless. I already know that first-handedly. So I've been on the receiving end, but you
I hope it wasn't
get what
too
you
hard.
want. No, Kevin. I'm just kidding with you. You know, I'm just messing. So the last question is a little personal.
Okay.
Because obviously you've been a guest on my show, What's Eating Harlem. And that interview that we had, it was very moving toward, like for me, like you opened up about your past and how, you know, you lived in foster care and, you know, everything. I was just like, yo, this is deep, right? So I just wanted to know, would you say that you've, and this could be for anything, that you've forgiven the person who has hurt you most, whoever that may be?
Yeah, I would say from that situation in particular, you have a lot of experiences that are less than ideal. Yeah, you forgive, but you don't forget. And, the biggest thing for me personally has been to do a lot of personal work so that I could move beyond that. And so, prime example, if anyone has known me from being younger, and I'm not talking about being a kid, I'm talking about as simple as maybe 6 months ago, or 3 months ago, or even, a month ago, if you're paying attention, you can see that I've been working at becoming a better person, a better man. And I just believe in that. And so a lot of that has to do with forgiveness. And a lot of that also has to do with understanding that sometimes people do things and it's not about you. And so if you can look at situations optimistically and from that perspective, then it helps you to be able to move forward and not keep carrying that weight around. So funny enough, the first book that I published is not the first book that I wrote. And the first book that I wrote, there's a chapter in the chapter 2, it's called No Prisoners. And it's called No Prisoners because if you think about a person who is tending to a prisoner, you have a prisoner in a cell and you have the person who's standing there. That person on the outside is also a prisoner. And it's a deep concept, but what it means is that as long as you have to stand guard and hold that person prisoner to the actions that they've done from the past, then you're also tied to it and you're also a prisoner to this memory and to this thing. So for me, moving past that and understanding that some of this stuff, I'm actually thankful for my foster care experience because it made me who I am. It's the reason why I'm relentless. It's the reason why I go so hard at my goals and things like that. So understanding that there's pros and cons to it, right? Like, we all have, our vices and things that we need to improve on. And I think that if you're actively moving towards that, then you can do nothing but become better. So yeah, forgiveness has definitely been a part of my life. But then also, just understanding, understanding people, understanding people's capacity to be able to see where you're headed and what you want to do. And understanding that sometimes people, they gonna hate or they gonna try to hold you back, and it's your responsibility to continue to move forward. And at the end of the day, you have to create your life. And that's what the show and why the show is named what it is because a long time ago I had to literally put my life on my back as a kid and decide that these are the pillars and the things that I'm going to do. I mean, literally, I had foster parents who brought me into their room and read me the statistics on foster care children and then just sent me on my way.
Really?
Yeah. So here's the thing about foster care children that a lot of people don't know. 10% of us go to college. 3% of us graduate from college. Cut that in half for minorities, then cut it in half again for African-American males.
Wow.
So right now we're looking at like a 0.2% or something like that, right? But it's that thing that's going to drive you. So you know what I mean? When I had that experience, one particular foster mom, she treated me very poorly, kind of like the mom from Antoine Fisher. She was just very, very mean, but I took it upon myself to take it as a challenge and say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to be broken. This is not going to be the end of my story. I'm going to take over. I'm going to create my life. And so I started to seek out those mentors and people who could help me to go where I wanted to. And so now in hindsight, when I look at, that experience and I understand who this woman was and what her intentions were with me, then for me, I can only feel sorry for her and I can only be proud of myself because I didn't allow myself to be broken. And at that point, she's where she is now and I am where I am now. And, it's faith, it's hard work and dedication at the end of the day, really holding on. Like I literally for years and years, all I had was, was my dreams. And even as an adult, as a man, I had the same thing, and as I've gotten older, I've learned to move past that and understand that there are other aspects to life and things like that. But for me, like holding on to that dream and really working to push forward and become a better person and to leave the past where it is, that is the reason why I can sit here and be on the Create Your Life series and have conversations with you and love everything about you that you do in order to empower people and stuff like that, because I've left that stuff behind me. Now, I ain't perfect, there's still some remnants, but at the same time, it's definitely been the opportunity to become a better person through forgiveness.
Thank you so much. Thank you for answering that question. Answering all my questions. Appreciate that.
Of course, I would answer anything for you, Selena Hill. But, that was actually a really thorough question. That was, to me, one of those questions about, the authentic, like, yo, it's one of them straight to the
I'm
gut
such
ones.
a New Yorker, right? I'm so cut
it.
and dry, straight, direct, straight shooter. Seriously.
I love it. Well, Selena, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. Really appreciate it.
Of course. All right, Create Your Life family. We'll catch you next time. Beautiful people, if you enjoyed this episode of the Create Your Life series, be sure to download it from our podcast, which is available on createyourlifeseries.com, iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and Google Music. Also, be sure to leave a review of the podcast. You can catch us live on Sundays from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time via 90.3 FM in New York or on Facebook Live at facebook.com/KevBrown1. We encourage you to participate in the conversation on Facebook or call in at 212-650-6903. Follow us on Instagram at CYLS series and at Kevin Y. Brown. Be blessed, and we'll see you back here live next week.
Create your life.
Crée ta propre vie.
Create your life.
创造你的生活。
Create your life.
Crea la tua vita.
Create your life.
Ontsteek jou lewe.
You better create your life.
Create your life.
Create la vie.
Create your life.
Create your life.